Hello, I hope you are doing well. Please forgive my appearance today. I was doing yard work and all kinds of things outside, and this is what it is. So, I just wanted to come in and talk about the energies and what do we even say at this point? We're in this space where there is no going back to the old, and yet really this feeling of how in the world do we bridge this? How do we do this? Feeling that, I almost want to say the heaviness of the new energies, not that it's heaviness, but it's this feeling of the abundance of the new energies. And what I mean by that is the presence of these energies. They're starting to feel like a weight, not because of their heaviness, but because of their presence here as a density form now, as we bring these in. I was thinking earlier today how life is feeling a bit challenging, but I realized the reason it's feeling challenging is because prior to this, I've been so kind of ungrounded out of my body. It's really nice and easy to always be, communing with the energies, up in the energies. Once they start coming in and we really have to kind of, let's say, walk the walk, talk the talk, put your money where your mouth is kind of thing. And I don't mean that in a way of having to prove yourself, but when you bring these energies into your physicality, into your daily world, suddenly all of the things that you used to, let's say, maybe get away with, you're not really getting away with anymore. So there can be this massive kind of frustration and anger, and really it's a feeling of not being able to get there fast enough, right? Knowing we have this vision in our minds or this feeling within our body or this intuitive call through our soul of what life is supposed to feel like and be like, what we know it internally as, and yet it's not appearing in front of us in this moment. And so there's this, let's say, this collision of the energies. And this is really what has been coming up for me over the past few weeks, where I've been feeling these like cycles of just rage. And I keep thinking, what is this about? Because I've cataloged all my problems. I know them to a T. There's nothing new that's coming up in that sense. And yet it is the, yeah, I want to be there. I just want to be in this place of peace and stillness where I don't have to sort through the bullshit of the let's say the, how do I put this? The density and the reality that being tied into the programs has created in our lives, right? So all of the messes that we know shouldn't be there anyway to begin with, but yet we didn't know at the time, or we couldn't see it at the time, or we couldn't fully understand it at the time that we were working in programs. And so now there's this like, yeah, I know it shouldn't be this way. Yeah, I know I made wrong choices. Yeah, I know I should have taken a different turn. And I know I should be over here, right? So it's like this kind of, what is that? Like the particle accelerators, right? Like those atom smashing. Like this is what it feels like in our brains right now and in our bodies, where it's like, I know I want to be somewhere else. And yet on top of that, what we have coming up is, and I'm laughing because it's like, oh, when is New Earth coming in? How is this going to work? Is it going to be a whole separate planet where we just get to like walk off and kind of go into the sunset? No, you have to resolve this through your physical reality. So what else we have coming up is all the cellular memories. So this feels very subconscious of all of the times we have been put in these positions where we haven't been able to say no to the programming, into the distortion, into the darkness. So it's not just that bad choice we made 10 years ago, which set our life on a course to a place which we don't currently want to be within in this physical reality, right? It's all of the lifetimes of that happening. And we're feeling that probably without realizing it, without knowing it. So it is this mess. It's like a big old spaghetti bowl. I was thinking today how when I was a kid, I used to, when we would have spaghetti, I used to look at it and I used to try and figure out which way the spaghetti was going, because I would cut it up before I ate it. And so, and this is just a peek into the craziness of my mind, right? But so I would look at it trying, believing that there was some kind of pattern there, and I was going to cut in the opposite direction, right, to cut up the spaghetti. And which is just crazy to me, but it makes so much sense when I look at my work now, right? It's all about systems. It's all about patterns. That's what I do. That's what I see. That's what I root out. And so I would stare, at this bowl of spaghetti and think, what's the pattern? Because I'm going to cut and undo it, right? Like, as if it was all laid out vertically, I would cut it horizontally. And one time my mom, she must have seen me looking at it, because she said, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm trying to figure out which way it's going so that I can cut it in the opposite way. And she said, it's going in every direction. And I don't know why this memory came to me today, but that's what life feels like right now. It's going in every direction, every possibility, everything that perhaps could go wrong maybe is going wrong. Everything that needs to be done is feeling like it's on the plate, it's on the table, it's up for review, it's up for fixing, it's up for renovation, and we can't get to it fast enough. That's the thing. So it's like having millions of, like, if you made a to-do list in every lifetime, right, of things you had left undone or regrets that you had, like, they're all sliding in right now. It's the feeling of this, right? So this unbounded knowing, like, and again, I'm laughing because it's like, yeah, I want to be able to see everything. I want to be able to know everything. I want to be able to feel everything. And it's like, we're getting a taste of what that's like. And yet, as I've said, this year is about cleaning up for the light beings and for the light workers who are stepping up here. So I've kind of gone off the radar these last few weeks because I just am still feeling pretty drained, pretty tired, and I think that it's not that I feel awful, but when we start to get tired, it's like I realized that's when things start to fall apart. They always say in the step programs, it's like when you're hungry, angry, lonely, and tired, you have to be careful, right? It's like, take care of those things first, because that's when you start to backslide and when you start to spin out. So we're kind of feeling all of those things, and this is where we have to be cautious and really take the time. And I really don't even like to think about self-care at this point, because self-care to me feels like something that you do to try and make yourself feel better. And yet we don't need to make ourselves feel better. What we actually need to do is to tap into our soul light, which is to do things that bring us joy. Because what is joy? Joy is just an expression of our light. And that's what we need right now, is to bring through that light, expression, because we're coming up against all these things from the past, which have been about programming, right? It's problems that were created in the programs, in the system, that we're clearing out and cleaning through. So to kind of, I don't know, self-care to me always is like, okay, let me go soak in a tub, but I'm doing it because I want to feel better. And yet it's reminding me of how I don't feel better, and I'm trying to make myself feel better, right? So it's like, what I really need to do, I don't know why I've lately taken up gardening and planting, and I just have bought so many flowers, and that's all I've been doing. And of course, I'm sure it has something to do with just getting into the earth, right? But those are the things I go and do, and I sit outside. I've been working outside. It's enjoying nature, and just being in that space is what makes me feel better. It's not necessarily about, okay, let's do this kind of ritual stuff. And maybe that's why too, right? Like all this old kind of ritualistic kind of garbage about what it means to be a light being and what we do when we're empathic and how we have to protect ourselves and all these things. It's like it's all getting rewritten, and we're coming into the cellular truth of who we are, which is to be within the light all the time. life is supposed to be about joy all the time, because that's what the light is, right? In its full expression. And yet we're being challenged because we haven't been able to be there. And even if we knew what it was that brought us joy, oftentimes we would run into resistance within it, right? So it's like, yeah, but there would be programs and controls and distortion there, which would keep us from fully accessing that energy within our own body. So it's not that necessarily we didn't know how to be in our joy or didn't know how to access it. We did, but there was a lot that was blocking it. So again, it's just a big old bowl of pasta right now, a big old mess. And you can't cut it up to make it easier to eat. It's like you just have to pull one noodle at a time and figure out, where that noodle wants to go. And maybe the whole damn thing just wants to get eaten and be in your stomach. I don't know. And that's just saying that, everybody's got their own... Sorry, I'm pulling yard work off of my socks, I guess. Everybody's got their own deal going on right now. It is... Again, we're all feeling the intensity of it, but it's all going to be within those kind of compartments or those departments of what we need to clean up and what we need to clear out. So we may have anger and frustration around different things, but it's the same thing essentially. It's where the programming and the patterning has really attacked us and really come after us to hold us into those distortions. So again, what's coming up is like this energy of, yeah, I know I should have, but I could. And so there's this like, it's not shame and it's not guilt. It's the frustration of being within the slowness of the density in order to have to change it, right? Where it's like, it's not like that. We still have to work through the 3D reality of it and the 3D world, the physical reality. So it's like there's this place within the mind where the mind wants to go and say, well, as if, so this is where we're really coming. This is what we're clearing out right now. It's this mental understanding, which, in life we say, well, you made those choices. Now you have to deal with the consequences. And when you go back, you won't make those same choices because now you understand, right? But it's different than that. I knew when I was there, something was wrong. But maybe the choices that were available to me, or even if I did make the right choice, something happened where it didn't turn out the way I thought it should have gone, right? So in, let's say, the normal physical reality, we would look back at this and we would kind of learn and say, okay, let's move forward. But now we're looking back and we're saying, what the fuck? Because I knew that. And like, how come I couldn't? Like, these veils are being lifted now. That's not really what's happening, but it's this feeling as if now I can see clearly. And I would have made this choice back then. So I will just say one of the memories that I also had come up in the last few weeks was when I was first married in my marriage. So, gosh, I think it was probably like the first, maybe within the first month of being married, actually. It was weird how this kind of came up. But anyway, this is just kind of to explain a little bit deeper what's happening here. So it was around Thanksgiving, and I remember I had an argument with my ex about going to Thanksgiving because I did not want to go to his family's house because his mother was just awful to me, and I would be like the scapegoat or this, like, I don't know, I would be this like thing in between her and her, I guess, boyfriend at the time. And it was a weird situation, whatever, but I would constantly get put in the middle where it was like, oh, go tell her that I need her to come here. And I would go tell her and she'd be like, oh, I'm not going to go out there and do that, whatever. And then ended up seeing the two of them, like, I told Paige to tell you whatever. Oh, she never told me that. Like, so I was like the child in the middle of this really bad relationship. Like, they didn't actually want to talk to each other. Somehow I got stuck in, and I was always made to look like, it was such a strange situation. But anyway, and I was just kind of putting my foot down. Like, I don't want to be it's not fair. Like, I'm always getting attacked, And my ex wasn't having any of that. And he freaked out, and it ended up, the reason I remember this situation is because I ended up going to the hospital. We got into a fight and he injured me, and it was not a pretty sight. But what happened was this memory came back up, and I remember thinking, like, okay, why did this happen? First of all, why was I even remembering this now at this time? And we talk about like saying no to unacceptable behavior and putting up boundaries and, not putting up with situations or people who are not respecting us. And yet it's like, okay, but this codependency, but why do I always cower? And it was like in this moment, though, I was standing up and I was saying no. But the problem was, he was, whatever was going on with him, narcissism, rage, abusive personality. So in that situation, it was very dangerous actually to say no. But what I realized was that in my saying no to him, the program, the control came down even harder on me, right? To the point where I learned in that moment, not consciously, but subconsciously, obviously. Now I'm conscious of it like 20 years later. But I realized what happened was that I was starting to say no, right? I was starting to say no to these programs, but the programs came in, the control came in and said, oh, you're going to fight back and you think you're in control? Let me show you who's in control, right? To the point where I know, and this is actually why I ended up leaving my marriage, because I knew either I was going to die or he was going to die. One of us were going to die. It was that bad. Again, this was very subconscious. But I did have the sense that there would be no just ending and walking away. It was a fight. It was a fight for control. And we look at people and we say, oh, they're narcissistic. They need that control. They need that energy. They need that power. They need to be fed with your light, right? In order to feel like they have some kind of source themselves. But it's more than that. It's these controlling systems and these controlling energies. And so, we can look back and have regret and say, I wish I would have done this. But the fact is, you were in a program. You were under control. And had you made a different choice, had you even felt like you had the power to be able to do that, who knows what would have happened, right? But it was like those were the controls coming down on us. It's like, you hit me, I'm going to hit you back even harder. And that's what we were dealing with in the past. And the beauty of what is happening now, even though it feels like a messy bowl of pasta right now, mixed with a lot of anger and frustration and I don't know what, the beauty of this time right now is that saying no, fighting back, taking control of our energy is not going to yield those same consequences. Now, I'm not saying if you're in an abusive relationship, you obviously have to be careful. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is we have the ability now to see clearly how these programs are controlling us, how they were controlling us. Many of us have stepped away from that, right? Because a lot of us have ended relationships. We have divorced. We have taken these steps, didn't quite know what we were doing, right? We were preparing all this time to be in this position now where we are free, where we can look at all of this stuff unencumbered and truly understand how those programs and those controlling energies were actually controlling our lives. So this isn't about, wow, I made a really bad choice. This is, wow, that program was so deeply embedded in me. I thought it was me. I thought that's who I was. I thought I was a soft, pushover, codependent person. No, those are the programs that we came in here with. Those are the things that were put into us when we walked through this gate. So, that's what's been going on for me. I'm assuming there's at least a couple of you that this has been happening with too. So I'm going to leave it there. I wish you all so much love, so many blessings. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Take good care. We'll talk soon.